Good morning. My name is Uwa Osabo, and I'll be giving you the feedback from the policy commissions. But first of all, I know we all sat in on commissions. This is a laundry list done overnight by sleepy editors. So if you feel we've missed out on anything, please get your notebook and just jot it down, and please give us a feedback afterwards. I don't know if we have the slides for this yet. If not, I'll start. The Agricultural Policy Commission. The first policy here was our government should design a well-articulated finance framework for the agri sector. Provide single-digit interest rate to farmers. Now, we don't know how possible that is, but this is where innovation will come in. Recruit and equip extension agents to train farmers. Integrate agricultural extension into the value chain. Integrate small-scale farmers and outgrowers into the value chain, provide high-yield seedlings, encourage backward integration, and improve networks to farm settlements. I'll move to energy. And energy has quite a bit. I understand it was an engaging session. Restructure the overall oil sector by splitting the national oil company from the petroleum industry, from the Ministry of Petroleum. Break PIB into manageable issue-specific laws, so for ease of implementation, I'm sure legislation as well. Immediately address the lengthy contracting process to reduce lead time. Currently, lead time 24 to 36 months in terms of delegating more decisions to private sector operators and implementing a streamlined contract review and approval process that seamlessly integrates contracting requirements by various agencies. Set performance targets for all agencies involved in the contracting cycle. A 30-day approval period is being recommended. Harmonize, consolidate, and streamline regulatory institutions with significant overlapping functions and responsibilities. Implement sustainable multi-year funding solution options for joint ventures. Energy continues. Adopt the Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC model for community management because it fosters an ownership mentality within the host communities that have a stake in the business that operates therein. Add value to raw crude commodity to provide additional income streams for government. Enable commercial framework and fiscal terms for gas in terms of opening up the session, liberalizing it somewhat. Enable commercial framework and fiscal terms for gas, set globally competitive fiscals for gas. Again, that's, I think the same point made slightly differently. Ensure payment security at the contractual level via adequate financial instruments that guarantee due payments for the gas that is supplied. Deregulate gas prices, promote willing buyer, willing seller market, enable sufficient gas infrastructure, and attract investments for domestic gas infrastructure. I think we have 3 more recommendations here under energy. Conduct regular bid rounds for gas acreages in line with global best practice. For example, the Gulf of Mexico conducts a bid round every 6 months. Ensure a power tariff level that provides commercial return to those who desire to invest in this sector. Ensure adequate gas supply and complete power plants that at various degrees of construction that could add up to 20,000 megawatts of electricity supply onto the grid. I'll go to the Commission on Environmental Sustainability Policy. The intended nationally determined contribution, INDC, should be seen as the start of the conversation for low carbon emission growth. Green policy framework should be implemented with the establishment of a carbon war room for monitoring. Tariffs and duties on equipment related to renewable energy and LPG should be reviewed. Pioneer status should be given in the renewable energy sector and LPG sector. Single-digit interest rate for financing long-term projects in renewable energy and LPG should be facilitated by the government. More awareness and sensitization about the cost-effectiveness and environmental safety of LPG is required. Government should implement the proposal for the LPG utilization program in Nigeria. Governance and institutions policy. So for those in that group, please again, we'll need your input here. The change agenda must pass a legitimacy test. Joint budgeting is needed to achieve the agenda of the government. Strong monitoring and evaluation structures should be put in place. A reform agenda focused on the needs and expectations of citizens should be communicated. Increasing the remuneration of public servants to improve their commitment. I mean, they don't want to lose a job that pays well. Job satisfaction and productivity. Human resources, in terms of even recruitment, should become more decentralized, so that even agencies hire to fit their need, the nuances of their needs. Launch and implement a robust public service change program. Infrastructure Policy Commission. Adopt effective PRO strategies for educating and engaging the public for improved buying into PPP. The point was made here that because PPP projects are so long-term and cut across various generations, even of government, that it's important that the public buy in. Because obviously governments want the vote of the public, and if a public is hostile to a project, even if they don't get it out with the first government, with successive governments they may have more leverage. Transparency of government to ensure accurate understanding of PPP arrangements by the media. Points were made about press. The press do try, but at times they really don't understand the technicalities. So a lot more transparency. The opaqueness of government needs to be done away with so that there's access to information by the media. Clarity around government's direction for capital projects. We need to know what the plans are, that the government has in this area. Effective frameworks that guarantee proper risk allocation. Policies that encourage provision of affordable long-term funding for PPP projects. Financial institutions should source diverse types of funding, that are adequate for long-term capital projects. Intensive capacity building for civil office servants and public officers on PPP is required, particularly as it has to do with the mindset, truly understanding that these are contracts and they have implications. Exchange programs between, again, I think this point was made under HR by Henrietta, but exchange programs again to ensure that capacity is being built. Removal of undue government interference to enable follow-through and the enforcement of contractual terms. And government should commit to honor its obligations. Somebody did make a point that in terms of obligations, there's sanctity of the contract, and there's also the regulator. The contract may be great and you may want to enforce it, but if the regulator does not have a track record of following through, that again also scares investors. So sanctity and track record. Science and Technology Policy Commission. Government should prioritize science and tech as highly as it does the oil and gas and power sectors. It needs to increase share of science and technology, science and the STEM training, I think, in terms of the yearly budget. E-governance should be adopted as it will improve capacity and enhance transparency. Local players must be protected to use, through the use of appropriate incentives, such as technical and financial support. There needs to be a ramp-up in infrastructure, review and alignment of curriculum to match labor requirements. The curriculum must reflect practical learning to enhance productivity. Again, I think the same point is made further on. I'll move now to the rail sector. Rail transportation. There needs to be investment in the rail sector. Most highly competitive in the world, most highly competitive countries in the world have excellent rail systems. Involvement of the private sector in the development of the rail system is key. The passage of a bill to encourage private sector participation is also required. I think that there is a bill of sorts, but I think to revisit it and ensure that it does meet our needs. Real sector commission manufacturing, adequate remuneration and recruitment of personnel, use of performance-based compensation systems and structures, involvement of private sector in the formulation of policies. Aviation, improvement of existing infrastructure, provision of facilities to transit passengers, particularly if Nigeria intends to be a hub for the region. This is a required baseline at the minimum. On the study, successful jurisdictions that have done this, including Malaysia, UAE, Ethiopia. I'll move on. Infrastructure comes up again, and I think almost the same thing. Solid minerals. Replicate successful solid mineral development in other countries, similar to other countries like South Africa, Congo, Botswana. Develop human capacity in terms of this sector, and obviously put in place policies and regulations that assist with implementation. The institutions need to be strengthened. The final policy commission, that's trade, investment, and competitiveness. Implement the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, mainstream the capital market into the overall economic agenda through more active engagement, create an enabling environment that supports private sector initiatives, thereby driving growth, create consistent policies with enabling laws to encourage the flow of foreign capital into the country. There needs to be clarity of vision and ownership. In fact, that also produces a higher level of engagement and ownership, interest in terms of attracting FDI. Review laws, regulations, and policies that may hinder competitiveness. Government should promote a competitive environment. Adherence to global standards by government and business is required, so we should see ourselves as global players, even as small niches, and not as local champions. Design of an effective reward and sanction system to promote competitiveness. So that's the final one here, but again, just on the behalf of the team, just to say that this does read like a laundry list, and we are very cognizant that this summit is about tough choices and that there's a need to prioritize. So we have brought the laundry list again, like I said, to get your input and to ensure that it's all here to support the various initiatives. But more work will be done in terms of synthesizing and prioritizing what we in terms of our recommendations later this afternoon. Thank you.